the conservative media, it's all, this is a big issue. There are dozens of articles. When he first started the site, you know, there were a couple articles from me and a couple others, and now there's tons of stuff every day. Everybody's writing about it. I'm on, a friend of mine's infiltrated one of the unions, and he sends me union emails, and they send out the list of articles, and I'm always happy because my articles are usually at the top. However, there are lots of other articles, and they're all negative from their perspective. There's no, they have no good news. So the public is starting to get it. Now, of course, that's, you know, that's kind of like saying, it's good news that when the Titanic hit the iceberg, because at least everyone on board believes the guy who was first yelling that there's an iceberg. But there's good news. I mean, I was on KQED in San Francisco, the public radio station. So they were doing a balanced account of the public employee pension thing. So they had their reporter, you could guess what his perspective was. They had their commentator, who you could guess what his perspective was. They had a university professor, who another unbiased source. You could guess what that perspective was. And then they had the union guy for the other side, because those other three were fair and balanced, and then they had me. And yet, even during that debate, everyone, even the union guy, admitted he was lying, of course, and you know how you can tell when a union guy's lying. He was lying, but he admitted that there's something has to be done, that there are excesses. So, you know, so that's good news, right? I mean, that even the union guys have to admit that there's a problem. I was on one of the Fox News shows, and Alan Colmes was one of the other people on there. I'm sure he's your favorite, and he's extremely annoying. And he was saying, well, this just sounds like a commercial for Meg Whitman, which it is, and I wasn't not a big fan of hers either, because she put her pension reform plan is inadequate. But anyway, he had to admit also that yes, there is some sort of a problem. So at their best, they have to admit that there's some sort of a problem. Now, this is a Sacramento Bee editorial. And Sacramento Bee, you might have noticed, is another fine conservative publication. Democratic legislators obfuscate waiting, we imagine, for union bosses to tell them when and how they can act. That's from a recent Bee. I mean, they know it. And that's the liberal Bee. So I guess, you know, at some level, the truth will set you free. Now, I was in San Francisco, great conservative bastion, talking with the public defender, who's actually a very good guy, Jeff Adachi. And he's obviously a leftist, and he doesn't hide it at all, but he's one of the old school leftists who he realizes that the pension tsunami is wiping out all the programs, including his own, that he cares very much about. And so he's sponsored a pension reform initiative, a pretty serious pension reform initiative. And there are some progressives, self-styled progressives, they call themselves progressives, who agree. And they're allies in this battle. So that's good news. And I believe in making allies wherever we can, because like I said, a lot of conservatives I've dealt with have not been allies at all on this issue. In fact, they've been enemies of mine on this issue, because they do not believe in taking on the police unions or the firefighter unions. Well, if you don't take on those unions that have done the most massive plundering, what's the point? And that was my problem with Meg Whitman. So if there are liberals who want to join the fight, great. We can argue over what size government should be later on, but at least in the meantime, we can agree that pensions are sucking the life out of every other program. In fact, Arnold Schwarzenegger's chief pension advisor, and the big surprise of this governor is chief pension advisor, like virtually all his other advisors, is a self-described progressive Democrat, David Crane. But he said one can't be a progressive and oppose pension reform because of what it's doing to all the other programs. So I know this is a conservative group, and they're making a pitch for progressives, but actually what I'm making a pitch for is the fact that we make allies where we can in fighting the battles that we need to fight, and that there are folks on the left that are getting it on this one particular issue. I don't think they get it on many other issues, and you know that. But that's good news, right? If they're starting to see it, then surely some of the state's voters are going to start seeing it. I mean, Willie Brown, who helped create the problem, has also been saying things about public employees that sound like they could be taken out of my book. He talks about how the deal used to be that public employees got a lower salary, somewhat better level of benefits, but now they get everything. They get much higher salaries, well, somewhat higher salaries depending on how you weigh it, and much higher levels of benefits. I mean, most of the public employees I know, I mean, they get you've heard of 3% of 50 is what the public safety unions get. And public safety is an ever-expanding category. It used to be police and fire, and now it's police, fire, milk inspectors, billboard inspectors, I kid you not, cooks at prisons, anyone who's walked by a prison and looked at it, that too becomes, everyone's instantly a public safety employee, and then they get an expanded level of benefit, and the most lush benefit is 3% at 50. So if you work for 30 years, if let's say you start at 20, which is pretty common in those lines of work, you start at age 20, age 50 you can retire with 90% of your final year's pay guaranteed for you and your spouse forever. And cost of living adjusted, finest health care benefits in the world, and this is a pretty incredible pay and benefits. In New York, you can retire after 20 years with full pay. So why even bother? Why not just let them just retire immediately? And these pensions, if you figure, actually, I can make a case for that. No, but these pensions, if you're looking at these things, what they're worth. I mean, I know I just turned 50, and I'm trying to look at my retirement planning, which if my wife were here, she would be on the floor laughing. And I'm just still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. And my fellows who went into the, who became police at age 50, at age 20, would be retired now. If in New York, they would be retired for 10 years. And these retirements are worth many millions of dollars if you figure it out, when you look at the average life expectancy. So of course, they get mad when we talk about these sorts of things. And that's before all by the way, that's before all the massive pension spiking games that are employed. And there are all sorts of games. I mean, at one point, well, the last time I read from the Sacramento Bee, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, the California Highway Patrol, 82% of their manager-level officers miraculously discovered a disability almost exactly a year before retirement. It's amazing. What an amazing thing. And that just happened to give them an extra year off and protect half of their pay forever from taxation. And it's not from, it's true, it sure is true. And so 82%, and on rank and file, it's somewhere around in the 55–60%. And the common injuries are, their back or knee injuries. In one organization, police organization, irritable bowel syndrome was the most common. So they want us to believe that it's taking bullets from bad guys. And I've been in debates. I know the police union guys. I argue with them, sometimes friendly, sometimes not. But one of the arguments that they say to me is, we put our lives on the line. Now, of course, that's something we have to wrestle with on any job. But in firefighting, police and fire do this. But actually, police and fire jobs are very far down the list, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, of most dangerous professions. They're just not up there on the list. And as far as another argument I get is, roofers, contractors, all sorts of people, engage in professions that are demonstrably more dangerous. Now, of course, police and fire have occasional dangers. I'm not saying that. But when they were hiring firefighters in Orange County and San Diego County, they had the fire authorities had to open the stadiums. There were so many. There were 10,000 or more applicants for the jobs in some cases. So these are jobs that obviously people would do for less money. In the world of firefighting, 72% of firefighters in this country are volunteers. So a certain percentage of people will do that job as a volunteer basis. Now, I'm not arguing against good things that people do in any profession, teaching, police, fire. It's just what we've done is we've allowed emotionalism, we've allowed politics to enhance the pay and especially the benefit levels to incredible levels, and it's just not sustainable. I mean, when Bill Lockyer says it's not sustainable, I can give you an idea. When the chief actuary for CalPERS, and they know the numbers, says it's unsustainable, that should give you an idea.